Hello guys, how are you? And I hope you guys are doing great and learning lot of things in your life and enjoying your life. And this is Sunil, your instructor for this course, and I'm also good and doing good. And today I'm here to update this course with replication, which many people were asking to update. So it was pending from many months and I was not getting time to update this replication. So in this section we are going to discuss all about replication in MongoDB. So firstly we will start with discussing what is replication. So we will start with the first lecture, that is the next lecture. In that we will discuss what is replication and what is advantage and disadvantages of the replication and how we can do that. Okay, so it is a pretty theory kind of thing. Okay, and then in the next lecture we will see what is replica set. So we will see how replica set can be used to achieve the replication. Okay, and then we will see the replication architecture in MongoDB. Okay, so we will see the replication architecture in the next lecture, that is the third one, and then we will move to the hands-on. So we will do the hands-on by creating replica set, and we will see how we can do the replication, and this can be 2 or 3 lectures. So this can be in the part of 2-3 lectures where we can create many hands-on videos. So there will be 5 to 6 lectures in this section, and we will see all about the replication. So see you in the next lecture where we will be discussing about replication. Hi guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about replication. So we have seen what are the things we are going to discuss in this section. So now the first thing we need to discuss is replication. So I'm going to discuss about replication. So first thing, just think about what is replication. Replication is simply creating the same thing, replicating the what is available. So in this case we deal with the data. So we have a data here, and what we want to do, we want to create a replica of the same data. So what I will do, I'll create the replica sets. So now I have the same data and we call it secondary data. Okay, so these are secondary data, and this primary data and secondary data both will have the same set of records, they will have the same data. So what we are doing here, we are creating replica, we are creating replicas, we are creating replica 1, replica 2, replica 3, replica 4. So now these are secondary data, which is the replica of the primary data, is known as replica set. So these are known as replica set. Okay, and the process of creating replica of the primary data, this is the primary data. Okay, so primary data is known as replication. So creating the process of creating a replica set is known as replication. So in simple words, creating same or putting the same data on the different servers is known as creating replica set or creating replica, and the process is known as replication. So this is very simple thing. So next thing we will see why we need replication. Why replication? So this is also we can deal with each, because the first thing is we need replication to deal with the data availability. So suppose I have this data D1 here on one server called server 1. Okay, and for some reason server 1 is going down. So from where I'll get this data? From nowhere. So in this case I may lose the data. So to deal with this situation, what we do, we will replicate this to two different servers or two or more servers. So I'll create the replica 1 of D1 and replica 2 of D1. So in this case, even though this server 1 is going down, I can get the data from this server 3 and server 4. So for this region we create replica because it can make our data available even though our primary data source is going down. So it makes the data available. The second thing is it creates the redundancy, data redundancy. So we will have some unused data. We may not be using this replicated data here all the time. We may be doing all sort of things with the D1, but we can keep the data for some emergency regions like server is going down or any disaster kind of thing happening. So it will create the redundancy and data availability. The next thing is we use this replication for disaster recovery. So suppose any kind of physical damage happened to the server or the location where we keep our data, we can get the data in those situations if we have the replication of the same data in somewhere else. So for this we can also keep the data for reporting purpose. So suppose if you want to keep your reporting data safe or getting data from different servers and you want to keep them safe, you can use the replication. We can also use this for backup. Suppose I want to back my data, suppose I want to keep my data safe, so I can use replication to make the data safe. So I can use the replication, like if this is going somewhere, I can get the data from replication 1 and replication 2. So for backup also, and some advantages are there for replication. So advantages, if I want to count, it will be the first thing we have already discussed, availability of the data availability, and what it will do, it will create the data locality. We will discuss this locality in detail. For now it's enough to know that because we are creating a data replicas on the different servers, so in the distributed environment, what it will do, it will increase the data locality in the distributed applications, because client can read data from here as well if they want. But ideally a client do all the read operation from the primary data source. So in the distributed application, it can increase the data locality, and it also increase the read frequency. So if you want to read the data from in the distributed environment, you can read it faster, and it will also give you fault tolerance. We have already discussed this. In case anything is going wrong, our secondary data nodes can become the primary and our application will be available all the times. So these are the main advantages of replication, and that's why we go for the replication. So I hope you got the better understanding of replication. If you have any doubt and if you want me to put some more effort or giving more clear thing, you can put that into the question and I can reply. Okay, so in the next lecture we'll see how replication works in MongoDB and what is the architecture of it. See you in the next lecture. Hello guys, welcome back. How are you? I hope you guys are doing great, and in this section of replication we are going to understand replication architecture in detail now. So we will understand how replication is design in MongoDB and how it works. So let me tell you one thing. Suppose this is the primary node. So we know by now that this will contain all the data, primary data node. So this will have all the data. Okay. So suppose we have a client here and he wants to perform some read or write operation on this. Then what it will do? It will perform all the read and write with primary node. And suppose I have replicated this to two secondary data nodes. Suppose this one and this one. So this secondary data nodes, secondaries we call in MongoDB replication secondary data nodes, and we call this process as replication. So we have replicated to two data nodes. So now we know that this primary data node and these secondary data nodes will have the same data, right? So even though these secondaries will have all the same data as primary and they are replicated with the same data, client will not communicate with secondary data nodes. No, this is not going to happen ever. Okay, so client is not going to communicate with secondary data nodes. Client is going to communicate to only primary data node. All the read write operations will happen with the primary data node. And what primary data node will do, it will maintain a operation log and it will enter all the details in the operation log. So when read and write operations are done, what these secondary nodes will do, they will get the data from these operation nodes and they will write on the secondary data nodes. So they will get the details from the operation log and they will write the data on it. So at some point of time, these primary data nodes and secondary data node will have the same data, and this is how the data is being replicated over time. So primary data node will replicate or write the operation log whenever read or write operation is being confirmed by the primary data node, and these secondary data nodes will communicate to the operation log. They will get the detail from the operation log for all the read and write operations and they will update their data sets. So this is how these replica sets secondaries are being updated. So I hope you got the understanding how this is working, and these secondary data nodes will also be communicating with each other with the heartbeat. So we will understand what is this heartbeat in next lecture. Okay, so see you in the next lecture where we'll be trying to understand this more and try to analyze this for now, and I'll be coming with the next lecture. Hello guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to understand about what is arbiter and what is heartbeat. So we will see arbiter and heartbeat in this, and poll for election we'll see in the next lecture. Okay, so let me tell you what is this arbiter. So we know this diagram by now. So we have this primary, right, and then we have, suppose we have two secondaries in a replica set. This whole set will be replica sets. Okay, so this process of setting up secondaries is known as, sorry, this is not second replica, this will be secondaries, right, secondaries, and this will also a secondary. So now we have replicated, we have done this replication, we know this diagram. So I'm drawing it again to make you understand better. So now we have this replica set. So now when we talk about how these secondary nodes will communicate, or how these replica sets nodes or secondaries will communicate with each other, they will communicate with each other by using heartbeat. So they will send communications, poll request, all those things through heartbeat. So this nodes in the replica set will be sending communication through heartbeat. They will be sending heartbeat so that they will be knowing that okay, they are alive and still running. Okay, so this is what heartbeat is. Next thing is, what is arbiter? So arbiter, I'll say arbiter is a MongoDB process. Okay, so arbiter is a MongoDB instance. Okay, like we have this primary and secondary nodes, same way arbiter is also a MongoDB instance. Okay, it is also a MongoDB instance, but it will not have anything without any data. So we can set up a arbiter here. Arbiter, we'll call it arbiter. Okay, but what it will do, it will also communicate with secondaries through heartbeat. Okay, but what it will do, it will not have any data with it. So arbiter will not have any data. So arbiters are it's like a replication but without any data. So we can replicate a primary node like secondaries, and if we make it arbiter, it will not replicate the data, it will not have any data. So why we need arbiter? We need arbiter in case of, suppose we have two secondary nodes here, right? Now in case of this primary is wanting to go down and become secondary, so in this case this eligible secondary will call for the election. So it will call for the election. In this case, what will happen? They have one vote. So all these three, this arbiter is not there, suppose. So 1, 2, 3. Now 3 votes are there, and this secondary will win the vote because this primary will support and it will give vote to itself, right? So it will become the primary in this case because there are odd number of nodes. Suppose if we have another replica set where we have, okay, suppose we have even number of, here 1, 2, 3 nodes were there. Now this primary and this secondaries. Okay, so we have 3 secondaries. So now in this case, if this primary is wanting to go down, this primary is going down and it want to become secondary, and this eligible secondary is asking for poll, then what will happen? Suppose this primary is giving its vote to this secondary, this is also giving this one. So now it will have 1, 2 and 3 votes and it will win the poll and become the primary. But suppose in another situation when this secondary is not giving its vote to this, it is not giving, only it is having votes for itself and this one. So it is having 2 votes here and these 2 votes in opposite. So 2 votes in favor and 2 votes in opposite. So in this case, what is there? There is a tie, right? Suppose this is also a eligible node and it wants to become primary. So this will vote this and its own vote. So it will become 2 votes for here and 2 votes here. So it will become tie. In this situation, what we need to do? We need to add a arbiter. So we will add a arbiter and it will function as a quorum. So what it will do? Arbiter will have 1 vote, exactly 1 vote for itself. So this arbiter, what it will do, when it will get the communication from the eligible secondary nodes that it wants to go for a poll for a primary, then it will give its vote to this or any one of them, and then this will become 3. So now this secondary will have 3 votes and it will become the primary votes. So in case of election, we add arbitrary. So arbiter will have a say in the election. So it will work in the case of election to provide the odd number of nodes, odd numbers of codes, right? So now in this case there were 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So 5 votes are there. So whoever gets the 3 votes, it will become the primary node. So arbiter will play a major role in time of poll for election. We will see in the next lecture what is poll for election and how a primary node can go down and become a secondary, and eligible secondary can become a primary node. So see you in the next lecture where we'll be discussing about poll for primary. Hello and welcome. And in this lecture I'm going to discuss about election for primary. So we have discussed what is replica set and how it works. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about this very important concept, that is election for primary, or you can say replica set election. So why we need election? So what is the need for election and why it happened? So election happened for to choose a new primary. Choose a new primary. So why do we need to choose a new primary? Because suppose we have a replica set, and in that replica set the primary is not available, or something happened to the primary, it is down and it is not accessible to any of the secondary. Suppose we have some secondaries here, and they are not able to access the primary, or primary is down. In this case, a eligible secondary can call for the election. It can call for an election and it can claim that it can become a new primary. So whenever primary is down or primary is not accessible, a eligible secondary can call for election, and in that election all eligible members will vote for the new primary. So since primary is the only member in the replica set, primary is the only member which can accept the write operations, right? Write operations can happen only for the primary. So if the primary is down, the whole replica set cannot accept any write operations. You cannot perform any write operations on the data. So in that case, it is very important to hold an election and choose a new primary so that our whole data can resume the write operation. But if the election is also started, it can take some time. It can take 1 or 2 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever. Okay. So by that time also you cannot write anything, but all the secondary, they can perform as usual for the read operations. So you can perform the read operations or other queries on the secondaries as usual during the election, but no write operation. So while the election you cannot do the write operation. So this is the reason for the election for primary. So whenever primary is down or something happened to the primary, then we need to go for the new primary, and the process of selecting or electing a new primary is known as election for primary. So this is the brief overview of why the election is needed. In the next lecture we will be discussing in more detail how this election is happening and what are the eligible members for the primary and what are their priorities. So see you in the next lecture. Hello and welcome back. So in the previous lecture we have seen what is election for primary and how election happens in brief. In this lecture we are going to see election for primary factors and conditions. So what are the factors that are going to affect the election for primary, and what are the conditions in which an primary can go for secondary, and eligible secondary can become primary. So we'll see the factors and conditions that affect the election in replica set. So first thing, we must be knowing by now that like this is our primary node, and we have, suppose we have two secondaries. This is a 3-node replica set where 2 secondaries and 1 primary. So what will happen, these nodes, they will keep on sending the heartbeat to each other every 2 seconds. So they will be sending the heartbeat with each other. For here also heartbeat, okay, and here also heartbeat. So they will keep on sending the heartbeat for every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds they will be sending heartbeat to each other to know that they are available. So if they won't get the reply for the heartbeat for more than 10 seconds, then they will mark that as a unavailable. In the same way, if primary, suppose this is a primary node and it is not getting the heartbeat from the secondaries for more than 10 seconds, then what it will think, it is not in the connection, it is not in touch with the rest of the secondaries, and then it will think that it has lost its connection with other nodes, and it will step down as from the primary and it will try to become a secondary because it has lost the connection. So this is one factor that will tell the primary to step down and become a secondary. Okay, so in this case, an eligible secondary will ask for the election, and election will happen, and after the election, this replica set, this secondary can become primary, okay, and primary will become the secondary. So this is one scenario which will ask for the election. Okay, so in same way, there are some other things that will also affect the election. So we will see that as well. So the first thing is, there is also one important concept that is called replication election protocol. Replication, okay, so this is the protocol replica set follow for the election. So after the MongoDB version 3.2, MongoDB 3.2, a new protocol came into the existence. So now MongoDB election is following the protocol version 1. So earlier it was protocol version 0, but now it is protocol version 1 we are following. In the before 3.2 it was protocol version 0. So this thing also we have to keep in mind. Okay, next thing is member priority. So member priority is also very important factor, because if a member is not having the priority to participate in the election, it cannot vote, and the priority should be 1 to participate into the election. So this is also very important. So what will happen when replica set will have a stable primary? So what it will do, it will follow an algorithm, election algorithm, to make a best effort to get a secondary, which in case if primary is going down can become a primary. Okay, so it will follow an algorithm to find the best available, best priority secondary, so that it can become a primary in case of anything, any mishap happening with the primary. Okay, so this member priority is going to affect the election and the outcome as well, because the member, secondary member with the highest priority will call an election, can call an election. Okay, so it's not that only the member with the highest priority can call the election, even the lower priority secondaries can also call for an election, but that probability is very low, and their win chances is also very low. So only secondaries with the highest priority can call for election more often, and their winning probability will be more. Okay, so and one more thing, if the priority is 0, the member cannot participate into the election. So you cannot, this member cannot seek for election, neither can vote for the election also. Okay, so this is one another factor for this thing. Next factor is, if suppose we have a primary or a replica set, whole replica set on a data center. Suppose we have a data center somewhere, and this whole data center is having some problem, and the primary is not available, and all the secondary will become the read only. In this case, since the data center has gone down, or data center is lost, in this case this primary on this data center can go down, and the eligible replica set secondary can become the primary. So in this case, what will happen, we need to have the ability to make the remaining members in the other data center or data centers to elect primary. So this data center has gone down, so we can have multiple data center, right? So we have to make the data nodes available in the data center 2, so that this data center 2 can select a primary. Data center 2 can select a new primary from their replica. Okay, so if this data center is going down, the data center 1 is going down, data center 2 can take over and select a new primary. And this can happen in the distributed environment, distributed replica set, where the replica set is being distributed on the one or more data center. I hope it is clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the course question answer area, and I will be happy to answer. So there is one more factor for this election for primary is network partition. Okay, suppose we have a replica set with a stable primary, and suppose we have done with the replication network partition, and on the partition where the primary is there, it is having very less secondaries, and primary is not able to contact the other secondary. In this case, what will happen, this primary with the less data nodes, it can step down and become secondary, and then a secondary with in touch with the more data nodes can become the primary. So another secondary, eligible secondary, will become the primary. So this is another thing. Suppose we have 5 nodes replica set, and we have done the network partition, and one primary and one secondary is on one network partition, and suppose 4 secondaries are there here. So this primary is only able to connect with this secondary and not with these many. So what will happen, this will step down, and from these secondaries any eligible secondary will become primary. Okay, so this is another scenario where the election for primary can occur. So there are some more concepts that I'm going to discuss in the next lecture. So there we'll be discussing about the vetoes in the election, and what are the other things that is going to affect the election and the election outcome. And we will also be discussing about the election. In the case of election, what are the members can participate in the election. So we will also see the voting member and non-voting members. So see you in the next lecture where we'll be covering this. Hello and welcome back. This is Sunil, and in this lecture we are going to discuss about voting and non-voting members. So we'll discuss about the members who can vote in the election and the members who can not vote in the election. Okay, so we have discussed about the voting or elections for primary in the previous lectures. So in this lecture we'll discuss about the voting members. So let me tell you, there are 2 types of members. One is called voting members, who are the members who can vote, and the other type of members are non-voting members. So what is the difference between voting members? And these members can vote and these members cannot vote for the election. Okay, and there can be maximum 7 voting members in a replica set, right? And this and non-voting can be anything up to 43, I guess. Okay, so because why I'm telling 43 here, because I forgot to tell you a replica set can have maximum 50. Okay, it can have 50 members, right? So out of 50, 7 members can be voting members and 43 can be non-voting. So these non-voting members enable replica set to have up to 50 members. Okay, and 7 members can have the voting rights. Okay, that's one thing. Next thing is how we configure this. So when we go for configuration in the replication configuration file, there we can set these members votes and state, okay, to 0 or 1. So if we set like members of n denotes the number of the numbering of the member dot votes. With this we can set the, so this we need to set to 1 to make it eligible for voting, right? The other thing is this was before the 3.2, before MongoDB 3.2, MongoDB 3.2, before, okay, before MongoDB 3.2. So after MongoDB 3.2, what we need to do? After MongoDB 3.2, we need to set the priority of a member to 1 to make it eligible for voting. Okay, so this thing you have to remember. Okay, this priority 1, and before 3.2 we need to put the members of n voting equal to 1 to make it eligible for voting. Okay, so this is one thing, and then we have to put one more thing. So I hope this is clear. We need to give the priority 1 to make a member eligible for voting, and if we set the priority 1, we cannot set the votes 0. Okay, so it have to greater than 0, right? Because it can vote, so at least it should have a 1 vote, right? So this is the thing. For non-voting members you can set it to 0, priority 0. Okay, so next thing what I want to tell the state. So first thing we need to set the priority that we have, I told you, priority to 1. Next thing is state. So we need to set the state also, state of the member. So state of the member should be to take part in the voting or election. The state should be any of the these things which I am going to tell you. First thing is it should be primary. The next one is it should be a secondary, it should be recovering, or it should be a rollback, and it should be in the arbiter. So to be eligible for voting, a member should have the priority 1, and then it should be in the any of these state. Either it should be primary, secondary, recovering, rollback, or arbiter. If it is not in this state with priority 1, it cannot vote. It has to be in this state. So keep in mind. Okay, then non-voting members, as I told you, the non-voting members cannot vote, but they make the replica set eligible to have 50 members, right? 50 members, because it can have only 7 voting members, and rest of the things we can have as a non-voting, right? So that's important thing for the replica set if you want to have more members. And these can have the read only privileges, so you can read the data from the replica set of non-voting members. So that's one thing. So this is all about voting members and non-voting members. So suppose we have a replica set which is having one primary node and secondary, suppose key 5, and then suppose 6, 7. So 7, then 8, then 9, then 10. So this is the primary. It will have 1 vote, secondary 1 vote. All these are voting members, right? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3, 3, 7. Now rest of these members will be non-voting members, and all this together will form a replica set. So it will have the primary and 6 other voting members, and it can have 4 non-voting members. So this is important thing. Okay, in the next lecture I'll tell you how we can write a configuration for making a member to priority 0 and 1 so that it can take part in the election. So see you in the next lecture. Hello and welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to see how we can write a configuration for voting and non-voting member. So I hope you got a better understanding of replica set and how we do the things, how replica set works, and how the election in replica set works. So to take part in the election we need to configure members as a voting member and non-voting member. So that is very important step. So in the next lecture we'll see in more detail by how to write a document. Here I'll just show you the configuration how we do. So first we need to write a document, and we need to provide the ID will be of number type. Okay, so this ID, document ID, it will automatically come from the MongoDB. Then we need to give the host. We need to write the host with the port number that we know, right? So here we need to give the host name with a port on which MongoDB is running. Okay, so this thing we need to give. Then we have another attribute, that is arbiter only. So if you want to configure a replica set member as arbiter only so that it can act as an arbiter, so you can write here true. Since I'm configuring a non-voting member, so I'm giving it here false. You can give it true here in case you want to make it a arbiter. Okay, so true if arbiter. Okay, so always remember this thing. Next thing is we have another attribute that is called build index, that you can write true. So we need to write build index, and that will be true. If you want to build index you can give true, otherwise you can give it false. It should be indexes. Okay, next one is hidden. So if you want this member to be hidden you can write true, otherwise it will be a false. Now comes the priority. So this priority is important in making a member as non-voting or voting. If it is set as 0 it will be a non-voting member, or if you can set it 1. So if it is 0, it's a non-voting member, and if it is 1, it is a voting member. This is not voting, non-voting. Okay, and 1 means the voting member. Okay, so this priority is very important. Next thing is, the next one is tags. You can give the tags if you want, otherwise leave it. And the next one is, we need to close this, and next is we need to give the number of votes it can have. So here, if it is non-voting, you can give 0 because it will not have any votes to give. And if it is, sorry, this I close for tags. Okay, so if you can give tags here, and this one we close here. Okay, so 0 or 1, or how many votes you want to give, that you can give. Always give 1. Okay, in most of the cases. So for non-voting members, priority and votes both will be equal to 0, and for voting member it should be, both should be 1. So this way we can configure, write the configuration file to make a member voting and non-voting. Okay, I hope you got a idea of how to write this file. In the next lecture, I'll show you how to write the members, particular members priority and votes in a configuration file. So see you in the next lecture. Hello and welcome back. So this is Sunil again, and in this lecture I'm going to tell you a very important thing. So we will write the configuration for the members as well, but before that let me tell you a very important thing, that is, you should not be increasing the number of votes. So in the last lecture we have seen we can write the votes, right, for a particular member, voting or non-voting. So this votes value you should not increase. Okay, you have to give 0 or 1. You should not be writing it like a 3, 4 or 2 select a primary. So you should not be doing this, right? So if you do that, what will happen in case of undeserving secondary or something will become primary. So it will affect the election for primary in a bad way. So never do that. Instead, if you want to do that, this is recommended. You can increase the number of votes from 1, 2, 3 or 4 in case if you want to have more than 7 members, more than 7 members, more than 7 voting members. Okay, so in this case only you can increase, otherwise never do this. Okay, so this is one important thing I wanted to let you know. So let's see the how we can do the configuration for a particular member. So we know that non-voting member must have priority 0. So if it is a non-voting member, its priority should be 0, right? Priority should be 0, and votes also should be 0, right? If you do these things, it will become a non-voting. If you put 1 and 1, it will become a voting member, right? So how we do when we have a Mongo shell open, Mongo shell, while writing the configuration. So inside Mongo shell, how we write this configuration? So for that we can use a CFG equal to rs result set dot conf. So you can use this configuration method to write the configuration file. Okay, so this what this will give, this will give you the document that contains the members field with their votes and priority. There you can write. So when you open this document, you can go ahead and write the configuration for members. So we can use this cfg dot members, and then in bracket you can give the members like 2, 3, whatever. Okay, and then dot votes to define how many votes it can have. So you can put 0 for non-voting and 1 for voting. Okay, so this way. So in the similar way we can put cfg dot members. This denotes the third member, right? This 3 means third member, and similarly for third we can write the priority also 0 if it is non-voting. For voting you can give 1. Okay, so in the same way we can write the configuration for others as well. You can write cfg dot members. Okay, here it should be yes. For suppose you want to write the configuration for fifth member, so fifth dot votes equal to, suppose it's a voting, then put 1, and cfg dot members 5, and priority also you can write 1 or 0 depending on what you want to configure. So this way cfg dot members and the indexing of the member, number of the members, and then votes and dot priority, we can write the configuration for the particular member, right? Now the question comes, suppose we have configured this with this rs.config, right? So we have used this rs.config function to configure. So this is for configuring, right? Suppose I have configured and I want to reconfigure. For reconfiguring we can use rs.reconfig. So we have another function, another method, that is reconfig, and we can pass this cfg here. So you can write this like this. So rs.reconfig is another method to reconfigure the priorities and votes for our members. Okay, so now when we use this rs.reconfiguration, it can force the existing primary to step down, right? So when we reconfigure things to elect a new primary, so it will ask the current primary to step down, and then the election will happen. So when election will happen, what it will be doing, it will stop all the operations. So primary is down, you cannot write the things on the members, you cannot you cannot do the write operations, you cannot do the read operations as well, because everything will be down. So in that case what we need to do, we need to do this configuration and reconfiguration only at the time of downtime. When you are doing your maintenance work, then only you do, because while election will happen, you cannot write or read the things on the replica set member. So it is always recommended to do this reconfiguration and configuration while doing the maintenance work, so that when the system is up and running, your users will be able to read and write things on the replica set data. So this is the things I wanted to let you know. See you in the next lecture, where we will be discussing some more concepts.